talk about sexuality and taboo. Are Cathy and Heathcliff siblings? I know in the movie she's removed the possibility that they are, but do you read them as siblings?
Because I read Heathcliff as a bastard child of a white man and an enslaved African or Caribbean woman, depending on how you use the terminology, yes, I do think that they're siblings. What do you think?
Yes. Of course they are.
And that is the reason why because like when you have twins that are separated at birth, and there have been rare cases where they find each other and they have a strong bond, but they don't know what is causing that. I think it's the same thing.
And that is why I believe is studio interference that made them unambiguously states that Heathcliff has a different father in this film, because this film takes the additional step of having Cathy and Heathcliff having sex repeatedly. They're not ready to be that wild and crazy and freaky with it and sick and twisted and gothic and Game of Thrones as to leave that real implication there that they are sharing a father. Which, to me, there's no way you can read that book and not take away that from that. That's such an important part. It's lost in this adaptation. Is the father is kind Heathcliff in the book.
Exactly.
He's not cruel like in this film. He takes some degree of care to Heathcliff. And Cathy's brother is resentful of Heathcliff because of that. He's like, I'm your full-born legitimate son.
No shade to anyone involved, but all of this has been exposed now. This reminded me of Arnold Schwarzenegger's whole love child situation. Yeah, his son with his former maid is very handsome. He's just like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's very fit and all this stuff. And I'm just thinking, if you were the other son, the fully white son, and you're looking at this other mixed race son, you might be thinking, well, damn, he's a better inheritor of my father's legacy than I am. And then there comes the hatred, right? I'm not implying that's what's going on in their family, but I'm just saying in terms of the optics.
Unlike you, I actually don't think Emerald Fennell would have a problem with doing the sibling thing. I actually don't think so, because I think if you watch Saltburn, I don't think that level of taboo would be too far for her. I think part of it is she decided to over-romanticize this story based on her own 14-year-old fantasy, one. And two, I think there's some studio interference there. It's a missed opportunity, but again, that's not what this film is a light and flimsy take on the quote-unquote romance of Cathy and Heathcliff. It's not a gothic horror. Yeah. It's not a monster story the way it's supposed to be. They're almost unrelated.
On the point that you just made, I get that you like the film as a standalone, and I understand that there will be other people who liked it. I think the issue I have is, why did she call it Wuthering Heights? She should have just called it Catherine
with quotation marks.
Okay.
But don't forget the quote.
It still isn't even that. So it's like, just call it Cathy and Heathcliff, call it Emerald Fennell's fanfic, and move on. You don't need to use Wuthering Heights. But of course, I understand that money have to make, so that's the reason why she decided to use that.
I actually genuinely wonder why they didn't call it Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights. I think that would have actually been better. No, I'm so serious. I'm actually serious. I think that more clearly tells you what this is. Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights tells me everything I need to know. Tells me that, I'm about to watch a weird porny, but not that porny perfume commercial about some characters lifted from Wuthering Heights. But I know that I'm not watching Wuthering Heights.
Yeah.
I want to talk a bit about sexuality in the film. It's marketed very sexy. Body stripping, hot, etc., etc. I actually didn't have a problem with that in the promotion, because I thought that is a valid recontextualization of the piece in the modern day. In the 1700s, 1800s, when this book was published, even the insinuations in the book would have been outrageous.
Yes.
Right? But in 2025, if you just did a flat insinuations-only storytelling of this film, there's nothing scandalous about that. Now, a very, 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 very artful filmmaker can probably still pull it off. But in my opinion, actually, if you're reinterpreting this story in 2025, you should actually lean into the fact that there's almost certainly a sexual dynamic going on between Catherine and Heathcliff. Because just because Emily Brontë didn't say it in the book doesn't mean it wasn't happening.
Yes.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Crucially, we have to remember that Nelly is narrating it, right? So if Nelly doesn't see something, she's not going to talk about it. So just because we don't read about sex in the book doesn't mean that it didn't happen either.
Yeah, and there are several moments in the book where you have they'll be like, oh, Cathy ran off in the rain to go and find him, and she was outside and we don't know when she came back and stuff like that. And there's even a potential light abuse conversation to be had there. That what does it mean even if they're not actually blood siblings, but when you're raised as a sibling with someone, sexual or romantic stuff going on is inherently abusive most of the time, and actually you should put a stop to it. And the fact that that almost certainly is happening, like, it's very unlikely that they become adults or actually older teenagers, which is what they are at the end of the middle of the book, and suddenly these romantic and sexual feelings come out from nowhere, and they never explored any strange things when they were younger. It's very unlikely. So I actually don't have a problem with a modern day adaptation leaning into the fact that that was probably happening. The problem is whatever studio interference, whatever Emerald Fennell self-castration was going on there, meant they actually removed the insane, depraved sexuality from the supposedly depraved taboo. It didn't feel that taboo. We didn't even see anything.
No, I do kind of disagree. Because they get to fully explore themselves sexually, not fully as in like they can't be a couple, right? But like they were able to have the sex and satisfy that desire. It meant that we didn't get the yearning. And to me, when I read the book, it's all about the yearning. So this is my problem with
yearning.
There is no yearning here because they get to fuck each other at nighttime.